Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched the alien ships appear in space. The massive fleet came out of nowhere, their ships looking like giant crystals floating in the darkness. There were so many of them that Jake stopped counting after 50. His own fleet had only 12 ships. The communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect English, cold and commanding. "Primitive humans of Earth, I am Overlord Vex Ka of the mighty Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender immediately or we will destroy your entire world." Jake looked at his crew. They were scared but ready to fight. He had trained with these people for years. They trusted him and he trusted them. But 50 alien ships against 12 human ones was not good odds. "Sir, what are our orders?" asked Lieutenant Danny Kim from the weapons station. "Wait for Admiral Carter's signal," Jake replied. He kept his voice calm even though his heart was beating fast. On the main screen, the alien commander appeared. Vex Ka looked like a tall insect with 4 arms and glowing red eyes. His voice was full of pride and anger. "We have conquered 300 star systems. Every race that fought us is now dead or serving us as slaves. You humans are nothing special. Surrender now and some of you may live." Jake had read the reports about the Zephyrian Empire. They moved from system to system like a plague. They took what they wanted and killed the rest. Entire civilizations had vanished because of them. Billions of lives lost, but the Zephyrians had never fought humans before. Admiral Lisa Carter's voice came through the ship's communication system. She was speaking to every human ship and station in the solar system. "All units, this is Admiral Carter. The enemy has made their intentions clear. They want to destroy our home and enslave our people. This is not acceptable." Jake smiled grimly. He knew what was coming next. "We are implementing Protocol 7, Admiral Carter continued. "Give them one warning, then show them why Earth has never been conquered." Protocol 7. Jake had helped write that plan 5 years ago. Every captain in the fleet knew what it meant. It was humanity's final answer to anyone who threatened their world. The warning went out on all frequencies. Jake watched as his communication officer sent the message that Admiral Carter had approved. "This is humanity's only warning. Leave our system now or learn why we are still here when others have fallen. You have 10 minutes to withdraw." Overlord Vex Ka's laughter filled the bridge. 10 minutes? You give us 10 minutes? We could destroy your pathetic fleet in 10 seconds. The alien ships began moving into attack formation. "You humans are even more stupid than we thought." Jake looked at the clock on his console. 10 minutes started counting down. Around him, his crew worked, quietly at their stations. They were not panicking. They were preparing. On other ships in the fleet, captains were doing the same thing. Captain Ryan Murphy on the UES Thunder, Captain Amy Chen on the UES Lightning, Captain Ben Rodriguez on the UES Storm. All of them waited for the 10 minutes to end. The Zephyrians used the time to show off their power, their weapons charged with bright energy. Their shields glowed around their crystal ships. They thought they were scaring the humans. They were wrong. Jake knew something the aliens did not know. The human fleet was not alone. Hidden throughout the solar system were weapons and ships that the Zephyrians could not see. What looked like cargo ships were actually warships. What looked like mining stations were actually weapon platforms. What looked like research facilities were actually military bases. Humanity had been preparing for this day for decades. 5 minutes remaining, called out Lieutenant Sarah Park from her station. Jake opened a private channel to his crew. "Remember what we trained for. Remember why we fight. These aliens think we are weak because we come from one small planet. They think we are nothing because we have not conquered other worlds." He paused and looked at each of his officers. "They are about to learn that humans do not need to conquer others to be strong. We are strong because we protect each other. We are strong because we never give up. We are strong because this is our home." The crew nodded. They understood. 2 minutes remaining, Sarah announced. On the main screen, Overlord Vex Ka was still, talking to his own fleet. Jake could hear him through the open channel. When we finish with these humans, we will take their planet for ourselves. Their cities will make good slave camps. Their technology will serve the Empire. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Not the hot, wild anger that made people do stupid things. The cold, steady anger that made people do dangerous things. 30 seconds, Sarah said quietly. Jake stood up from his captain's chair. Around the bridge, his officers were ready at their stations. Throughout the solar system, thousands of other humans were doing the same thing. 10 seconds, Sarah counted. Down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The 10 minutes were over. Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system one last time. All units, the warning period has ended. The enemy has chosen war. Show them what humans do to protect their home. Jake looked at the alien fleet on his screen. 50 ships against 12. The Zephyrians thought they had already won. They were about to discover their mistake. Fire, Jake ordered. The battle for Earth began. The first shots came from the human ships, but they were not what Overlord Vexka expected. Instead of the weak energy beams he had seen from other primitive races, these weapons tore through space like controlled lightning. 3 Zephyrian ships exploded before their shields could even activate. But that was just the beginning. Commander Ryan Brooks sat in Luna Base, deep under the surface of Earth's moon. His fingers moved across the control panel as he activated systems that had been hidden for 20 years. All stealth platforms, this is Luna Base. Begin activation sequence. Across the solar system, things that looked harmless suddenly became deadly. The cargo freighter near Mars opened up to reveal massive cannons. The mining station in the asteroid belt unfolded into a weapons platform the size of a city. The research facility orbiting Jupiter turned out to be a fortress with enough firepower to destroy a planet. Overlord Vexka watched in shock as his fleet found itself surrounded by enemies that had been invisible moments before. Impossible, he hissed into his communication system. Our scanners showed nothing but civilian targets. Admiral Carter's voice answered him from Earth. You saw what we wanted you to see. Did you really think a species that survived on a death world would be unprepared for war? The Zephyrian commander tried to regroup his fleet, but the humans had planned for this too. Captain Jake Morrison led his 12 ships in a coordinated attack that split the alien formation in half. The human ships moved like they were dancing, each one covering the others, their weapons firing in perfect timing. But the real surprise was still coming. Dr. Kate Sullivan worked in a laboratory buried 3 miles under the surface of Earth. She had spent 15 years on a project that the military called Operation Gravity Well. Most people thought she was working on clean energy. They were wrong. All stations, this is Dr. Sullivan, she announced over the military communication network. Planetary defense grid is now online, initiating gravity field manipulation. The Earth itself became a weapon. Around the planet, invisible fields of twisted spacetime reached out toward the Zephyrian fleet. The alien ships suddenly found themselves caught in gravity wells that pulled them in different directions. Their crystal hulls designed to resist energy weapons began to crack under forces that could bend reality. Overlord Vexka felt his command ship shudder as something grabbed it from below. What is happening? He screamed at his officers. His science officer looked terrified. Sir, the humans have turned their planet into a gravity weapon. They are creating artificial black holes around our ships. 5 Zephyrian vessels were crushed like tin cans as the gravity fields compressed them into balls of twisted metal. The survivors tried to escape, but the fields followed them, reaching out across millions of miles of space. Captain Amy Chen piloted her ship, the UES Lightning, through the chaos of battle. She watched alien ships imploding under their own weight and felt no sympathy. These creatures had come to destroy her home and kill her family. They deserved whatever happened to them. Lightning to all units, she called over the radio. The enemy is trying to retreat toward the outer system. Do not let them escape. But the Zephyrians were not just trying to retreat. They were trying to understand what they were fighting. Overlord Vexka had conquered hundreds of worlds, but he had never seen anything like this. Other species fought, with fear or desperation. The humans fought with something else entirely. They fought with cold, calculated fury. Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez was leading a boarding party onto a damaged Zephyrian cruiser. His team moved through the alien ship like they had trained for this their entire lives, which, in a way, they had. Every human child learned about the wars of Earth's history. They learned about ancient battles where humans fought against impossible odds and won through teamwork and determination. They learned about soldiers who never gave up, even when they were outnumbered and outgunned. The Zephyrians had never learned those lessons. They had always been the strongest. They had always had the advantage. They did not know how to fight when they were losing. "Sir?" Rodriguez's sergeant called out as they captured another section of the ship. "These aliens fight like they have never been in a real battle before." Rodriguez nodded. That was exactly right. The Zephyrians were used to easy victories against weak enemies. They had never fought anyone who could fight back. Back on Earth, Admiral Carter watched the battle through the tactical display in her command center. The Zephyrian fleet was falling apart. Half their ships were destroyed or disabled. The others were trying to escape but finding themselves trapped by human forces that seemed to be everywhere at once. "Ma'am," her aide reported, "we are receiving surrender signals from 12 enemy vessels." Carter thought about it for a moment. The Zephyrians had come here to commit genocide. They had threatened to enslave humanity. They had laughed at the warning to leave peacefully. But humans were not like them. "Accept their surrender," she ordered. "Take the crew's prisoner and secure their ships. We will need information about their empire." The battle was almost over, but Admiral Carter knew this was just the beginning. The Zephyrian Empire controlled hundreds of star systems. When they learned what had happened here, they would send more fleets. Humanity would be ready for them too. On his ship, Overlord Vexka watched his mighty fleet die around him. These humans were not like any enemy he had ever faced. They did not fight for conquest or glory. They fought for something much more dangerous. They fought for home. The surviving Zephyrian ships tried to run, but they quickly discovered that escape was impossible. Captain Alex Turner had been waiting in the outer solar system with a fleet of ships disguised as ice miners and cargo haulers. When the aliens turned to flee, they found themselves facing fresh human forces on all sides. "This is Captain Turner to all fleeing hostiles," he broadcast on their frequency. "You came here to destroy our world. Did you think we would just let you leave to try again?" Overlord Vexka's damaged command ship limped toward the edge of the system, but Turner's forces closed in like wolves hunting wounded prey. The human ships moved in ways that seemed impossible, coordinating their attacks with precision that the Zephyrians had never seen before. What terrified the aliens most was not the human technology, it was the humans themselves. Every other species the Zephyrians had conquered showed predictable behavior in battle. They panicked when things went wrong. They made mistakes under pressure. They broke formation when their leaders were killed. Humans did none of these things. Commander Sarah Blake led her Marines onto Overlord Vexka's ship through a breach in the hull. The Zephyrian soldiers were waiting for them with weapons ready. They expected the humans to charge forward like wild animals or to hide behind cover like cowards. Instead, the humans did something that made no sense at all. When one Marine was wounded by enemy fire, 3 others immediately moved to protect him, even though it put them in greater danger. When the aliens concentrated their fire on a small group of humans, those humans fought harder instead of retreating. When the situation looked hopeless, the humans became more determined instead of giving up. "They are insane," one Zephyrian soldier whispered to another as they watched human Marines advance through heavy weapons fire to rescue a fallen comrade. "They care more about each other than about winning." But that was exactly why the humans were winning. Lieutenant Danny Foster worked his way through the ship's corridors with his squad. They had trained for ship-to-ship combat for years, but this was different from any simulation. The Zephyrians fought like they expected to win through superior numbers and firepower. They had never learned to adapt when their plans went wrong. "Contact. Front," Foster called out as his squad encountered enemy soldiers. The fight was brief and brutal. The Zephyrians had better individual weapons, but the humans fought as one unit while the aliens fought as individuals. When the smoke cleared, Foster looked at the surviving enemy soldiers. They were cowering behind their barricades, clearly terrified. These were supposed to be the soldiers of a mighty empire that had conquered hundreds of worlds. They fight like they have never lost a battle before, Sergeant Lisa Park observed. Foster nodded. That was the problem with always being the strongest. When you finally met someone stronger, you had no idea what to do. Back on the bridge of his ship, Captain Turner watched the last Zephyrian resistance collapse. The aliens had superior numbers and technology when the battle started, but they had no experience with real warfare. They had been bullies for so long that they had forgotten how to fight when someone fought back. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we have captured the enemy command ship. Overlord Vex-Ka is our prisoner." Turner smiled grimly. "Good. We need him alive. Dead enemies cannot spread the word about what happened here." That was the real purpose of this battle. Destroying the Zephyrian fleet was important, but it was not enough. The message needed to get out to the rest of the galaxy. Every other aggressive empire needed to know what would happen if they threatened humanity. On the captured command ship, Commander Blake found Overlord Vex-Ka hiding in his personal quarters. The mighty commander of the Zephyrian fleet was curled up in a corner, shaking with fear. "Please," he begged when Blake and her Marines entered the room. "I surrender. Do not kill me." Blake looked at him with disgust. This creature had come to Earth planning to commit genocide. He had intended to kill billions of innocent people. Now he was begging for mercy. But humans were better than that. "You are our prisoner," Blake told him. "You will be treated according to the rules of war. Unlike you, we do not murder helpless enemies." Vex-Ka stared at her in confusion. "But we came to destroy your world. Why do you not kill me in revenge?" Blake holstered her weapon. "Because that is not who we are. We fight to protect, not to destroy. You will live to tell your empire what happened here. You will tell them that humans gave you a warning, and you chose not to listen." Across the solar system, the last of the Zephyrian ships were being captured or destroyed. The mighty fleet that had arrived expecting an easy victory was gone. Some ships were smoking wrecks floating in space. Others were captured prizes flying under human control. But the most important victory was not military. It was psychological. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge and looked at the tactical display. The battle was over, but he knew the real war was just beginning. When news of this defeat reached the Zephyrian Empire, they would be forced to make a choice. They could send more fleets to Earth, knowing that humans were more dangerous than they had believed. Or they could leave humanity alone and focus on easier targets. Morrison hoped they would choose to leave Earth alone, but he suspected they would not be that smart. Either way, humanity would be ready. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson that Earth had known for millions of years. Sometimes, the most dangerous predator is not the biggest or the strongest. Sometimes it is the one that refuses to give up. The news traveled across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within days, every major civilization knew that the mighty Zephyrian Empire had lost an entire fleet to a single species they had never heard of before. The humans of Earth had done the impossible. Ambassador Nicole Watson stood before the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Centauri Prime. The massive chamber held representatives from over 200 different species. They were all staring at her with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "Members of the Council," she began, her voice calm and steady. "Humanity requests formal recognition as a spacefaring civilization and membership in this body." The Altarian representative, a tall being with blue skin and 4 eyes, spoke first. "Your species has just destroyed one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. Why should we trust you?" Nicole smiled. "Because we are not here to conquer anyone. We are here to offer protection." The chamber erupted in confused voices. Protection? From whom? The humans were clearly the most dangerous species anyone had seen in centuries. "The galaxy is full of predators," Nicole continued when the noise died down. Empires like the Zephyrians who take what they want and kill anyone who resists. We have watched this happen for decades while we prepared for our own defense. She activated a holographic display that showed star maps of the local region. Red dots marked systems controlled by aggressive empires. Yellow dots showed species that lived in constant fear of attack. Green dots were the few civilizations strong enough to defend themselves. For too long, the strong have preyed on the weak. This ends now. The counselor from the Valerian Republic raised a tentacle. What exactly are you proposing? A protection treaty, Nicole replied. Any species that accepts our guardianship will be defended against aggression. In return, you will accept human advisors and agree to our rules about how conflicts should be resolved. An elderly delegate from the Corbian Federation stood up. And what if we refuse? Nicole's expression did not change. Then you are free to defend yourselves as you always have. But know this. Any species that attacks those under our protection will face the same fate as the Zephyrians. The message was clear. Join the humans or stay out of their way. There was no middle ground. Captain Danny Foster was already seeing the results of humanity's victory. His ship, the UES Guardian, had been sent to the Lyrian system where 3 small colonies lived in fear of the Korthak raiders. The Korthaks were a brutal species that enslaved weaker races and sold them across the galaxy. When Foster's ship arrived, the Korthak fleet was preparing to attack the main Lyrian colony. 50,000 innocent people were about to be killed, or enslaved. This is Captain Foster of the Terran Federation to all Korthak vessels, he broadcast. You will withdraw from this system immediately. The Korthak commander laughed over the radio. One human ship against our entire fleet? You are either very brave or very stupid. I am giving you the same warning we gave the Zephyrians, Foster replied calmly. Leave now or face the consequences. The Korthaks had heard about the battle at Earth, but they did not believe the stories. How could one species destroy an entire Zephyrian fleet? It was impossible. They were about to learn the truth. Foster's ship looked small compared to the Korthak fleet, but appearances were deceiving. The Guardian was one of humanity's new generation warships, built with all the lessons learned from the Zephyrian battle. When the Korthaks opened fire, they discovered that their weapons could not penetrate the human ship's shields. When they tried to overwhelm it with numbers, they found that one human ship could fight like 10 normal vessels. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, half the Korthak fleet was destroyed and the rest were running for their lives. The Lyrians could not believe what they had witnessed. One human ship had defeated an entire pirate fleet that had terrorized their people for years. Why did you help us? The Lyrian governor asked Foster when he came down to the planet's surface. Because it was the right thing to do, Foster replied, simply. That answer spread across the galaxy as quickly as the news of the battle. The humans did not fight for profit or territory. They fought to protect others. Within weeks, dozens of species were requesting protection treaties with humanity. The small peaceful races that had lived in fear for generations suddenly saw hope for the first time. But not everyone was happy about humanity's rise to power. The Draconian Empire controlled over 100 star systems through fear and military might. Their supreme commander, Warlord Krex, had built his empire by conquering everyone who was weaker than him. These humans are a threat to the natural order, he told his war council. The strong rule the weak. That is how the galaxy has always worked. His advisors nodded in agreement. The human philosophy of protecting the weak was dangerous to empires, like theirs. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, 17 species have already signed protection treaties with the humans. More are requesting them every day. Krex slammed his fist on the table. If we allow this to continue, every week, species in the galaxy will think they can defy us. We must crush the humans before they become too powerful. But other military leaders were not so sure. The reports from the Zephyrian battle were troubling. Humanity had shown tactical abilities and technology that seemed far beyond what a single-planet species should possess. Sir, General Voss said, carefully, perhaps we should avoid direct confrontation with the humans. They have proven to be more dangerous than expected. Krex glared at him. Are you suggesting we show fear to these primitives? I am suggesting caution, Voss replied. The Zephyrians thought the humans were primitives too. The debate raged for hours, but Krex had already made his decision. The Draconian Empire would not bow to anyone, especially not to a species that dared to challenge the way things had always been done. The galaxy was about to see what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object. 5 years had passed since the battle at Earth. The galaxy looked completely different now. Where once there had been fear and constant war, there was peace under the protection of the Terran Federation. But peace always came with a price. General Chris Hamilton stood in the command center of New Geneva Station, humanity's largest military base outside the solar system. The massive station orbited a gas giant in neutral space, serving as headquarters for the Federation's peacekeeping forces. Sir, Lieutenant Colonel Amy Peterson reported, we have a situation in the Outer Rim. The Korthak hegemony is threatening the Lyrian colonies again. Hamilton nodded grimly. The Korthaks had rebuilt their fleet after their defeat 5 years ago. They had learned to be more careful, but they had not learned to be peaceful. How many ships? He asked. 50 vessels, sir. They are demanding tribute from all 3 Lyrian worlds. If the colonies refuse, the Korthaks will attack. Hamilton looked at the tactical display showing the threatened systems. 3 small worlds with a combined population of 2 million peaceful beings. Against them, a fleet of pirates and slavers who had terrorized the region for decades. In the old galaxy, this would have been ignored. The strong would take what they wanted from the weak, and no one would care enough to stop them. But this was not the old galaxy anymore. Prepare Battle Group 7 for immediate deployment, Hamilton ordered. Colonel Peterson will command the mission. Peterson saluted. Rules of engagement, sir? Standard protection protocol. Offer them 1 chance to withdraw. If they refuse, disable their fleet and capture their leadership for trial. Peterson smiled. She had fought in the original battle against the Zephyrians and knew what humans could do when they were protecting others. Understood, sir. 2 days later, Peterson's fleet arrived at the Lyrian system. Her force consisted of only 5 ships, against the 50 Korthak vessels, but she was not worried about the numbers. This is Colonel Peterson of the Terran Federation to all Korthak ships, she broadcast. You are in violation of Federation Protection Treaty 17. Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences. The Korthak commander, Admiral Sek, responded with predictable arrogance. 5 human ships against our entire fleet? You are either insane or stupid. I am giving you the same warning we have given others, Peterson replied calmly. This is your only chance to leave peacefully. Sek laughed. We have studied your tactics since the Zephyrian defeat. We know your weaknesses now. Prepare to die, humans. The Korthak fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and missiles filled space as 50 ships concentrated their attack on Peterson's small force. But the humans had not been idle during the past 5 years either. Peterson's ships moved through the enemy fire like dancers, their new shield systems deflecting attacks that should have destroyed them. Their weapons struck with surgical precision, disabling enemy ships instead of destroying them outright. Target their engines and weapons systems, Peterson ordered her captains. We want prisoners, not corpses. The battle was over in less than an hour. 43 Korthak ships were disabled and drifting helplessly in space. The remaining 7 had surrendered rather than face destruction. Admiral Sek found himself a prisoner aboard Peterson's flagship, staring at the human colonel in confusion. How is this possible? We outnumbered you 10 to 1. Peterson looked at him with the same expression she might use for a particularly slow child. Numbers do not matter when you do not know how to fight. Your people have spent so long attacking the weak that you forgot what real combat looks like. The Korthak admiral was taken away to await trial for piracy and slavery. His fleet would be broken up, their crews imprisoned, or rehabilitated depending on their crimes. But the real victory was not military. It was what happened next. The Lyrian colony sent a message of gratitude to the Federation, but more importantly, They sent a message to every other species in the galaxy. The humans had kept their promise. They had protected those who could not protect themselves. Back on New Geneva Station, Hamilton received reports from across the galaxy. In the past month alone, Federation forces had stopped 3 different conflicts and prevented 2 genocides. The galaxy was becoming a safer place, but not everyone was happy about the changes. On the bridge of his flagship, Warlord Krex of the Draconian Empire watched the reports of the Korthak defeat with growing anger. The humans were making it impossible for strong species to take what they needed from weak ones. "Sir," his aide reported, "our tribute collections are down 60% this quarter. Too many species are requesting Federation protection." Krex slammed his fist on his throne. The Draconian Empire had ruled through fear for over 2 centuries. Now, a single species from one small planet was undermining everything they had built. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "If the humans want to protect the weak, they can try to protect themselves." But even as Krex gave the order, his military advisors were worried. The humans had proven themselves against every enemy they faced. Their technology was advancing rapidly, and their tactics were unlike anything the Draconians had encountered. More importantly, the humans had something that the Draconians did not understand. They had allies who actually wanted to help them, instead of simply obeying out of fear. Admiral Carter, now in charge of all Federation military forces, received the intelligence reports about Draconian fleet movements. She was not surprised. Sooner or later, all the old empires would have to choose between adapting to the new galaxy or being destroyed by it. "Ma'am," her aide asked, "should we prepare for war?" Carter looked out at the stars through the viewport of her office. Somewhere, out there, children of dozens of different species were sleeping safely because human ships protected their worlds. Families that had lived in fear for generations now had hope for the future. "We are already at war," she replied quietly. "We have been at war since the day we decided that the strong should protect the weak instead of preying on them." She turned back to her desk and began reviewing deployment orders. The Federation fleet was larger now than it had been during the Zephyrian crisis. Ships from allied species flew alongside human vessels, all committed to the same cause. The Draconians would come eventually. When they did, they would face not just humanity, but an alliance of everyone who believed that peace was better than conquest. The age of empires built on fear and oppression was ending. The age of the Federation, built on protection and cooperation, had begun. And at the heart of it all was the simple truth that had made humanity strong from the beginning. Sometimes the most powerful thing in the universe was not a weapon or a fleet. Sometimes it was just refusing to let others suffer when you had the power to help them.